Actually, before I move on with my other early access game playthroughs and reviews, I spent so much time talking about BeamNG-drive in the automation playthrough that I never got around to actually demonstrating it. And of course, having BeamNG-drive makes automation a much more versatile game because you can build cars for BeamNG-drive, you can test them in BeamNG-drive. At the moment, there's no meaningful way to drive the cars you build in automation unless you have BeamNG-drive. BeamNG-drive is not only intended for that purpose, of course. It has its own, I don't know what you would call them, I guess special characteristics that are supposed to distinguish it from other car racing games. So the soft body physics especially. So the crashes are supposed to be very realistic. Other aspects of the physics model are supposed to be realistic, even if the cars are, and trucks too, are largely fictionalized versions of real cars or completely fictionalized altogether. And there are a lot of different things you can do in the game. You can drive a bus on a route. You can use a racetrack for timing or, I believe, multiplayer as well. I haven't tried that yet. And you can do gimmicks like Lego cars, they were saying. Where is that here? Looking for it. There we go. There's like a Lego-inspired car. And so on. On Steam, even though it's an early access game as well, it's on an early access 3, or possibly you could argue beta 3, it's €20.99. I got it on sale, so I paid considerably less. And you don't actually need automation to get something out of it, because there are a lot of these fictional cars already in the game that actually don't have anything to do with automation at all. And the system requirements are not too onerous. I mean, they're saying 16 gig of RAM minimum, which is a little bit challenging. But this is not the most challenging car racing game that you're going to find. So I guess it makes the most sense for me to demonstrate it in the context of automation, because that's how I was talking about it before anyway. So if we go down here to the Boxer that I was talking about before, which I think is one of the most fun cars to drive in BeamNG, we go to that car in the car designer of automation. I have to wait a little bit while it loads here. You have various options, and of course, again, we get this false alarm with the bad brakes. As I've said before, it's a false alarm. But if we go to testing here, you can do various things here. This is actually not the best place to do the testing. I don't know why they send us here for that tab. I'm used to doing... I'll find it here. Where's my engine test? Let's see. Ah, there we go. Yeah, I'm used to doing the engine test, but there is also, of course, the car test. I guess that's why they put it there. And now I'm getting all confused. There we go, testing. One of the tests you can do, of course, is the test track. So this is their contrived test track. So they say, oh, so you can drive it. No, you can't. You can have the computer drive it around this track and see what you get. That's basically the deal. So we'll give it a try here. So you start the test track by clicking the play button here. It's so easy, it's easy to miss it actually. And the car proceeds down the track. You have this nice meter over on the right there, the circular one, that not only tells you how many G's you're pulling, but also in what direction. And the defining thing about this track test is that the computer isn't affected by the instability of the car. It can basically get any car around the track consistently with a scientifically determined lap time, to the extent that you can get one. But the reality is it's not very realistic, because you don't know about the instability of the car by watching this. And this is why I really like BeamNG as a means of testing the cars, as well as the fact that it's obviously more fun. And so the car is proceeding down the straight here. You can see the speedometer over on the right there, that it's hitting 150 miles an hour, 240k. And it's not having to brake as much as I would have to brake on that curve, again because of the stability. I found the best thing for this car was I finished off the handling refinements by moving the engine 10 centimeters forward, which you don't actually see acknowledged in automation in the various weight distribution data and so on, but once you get it into BeamNG, you notice it right away. That's exactly the finishing touch the car needs. Of course, a real engineer would do that in the beginning. They would make sure that the weight distribution is perfect, but I'm a gamer, so I start with the defect. Well, not the defects, but the defaults, and then deal with the defects. That's the way I handle it. So the car's zooming along here, doing a really good lap, because again, as I said, this is the automation test track. And heading for the final curve here. And over the finish line. And the final lap time is 2:13.18. It's a pretty nice time, actually. I don't think I would be able to do that. We'll see what I do in the game. But the airfield's the other track, but unfortunately they haven't put the other BeamNG tracks in automation yet. So let's look at BeamNG. So you have the free roam and the campaign and the garage, all these things that are partly finished, partly unfinished. Bus routes are maybe the most interesting oddity. But we're going to do the time trial on the automation test track. And as you will see, I will not make the same time as the computer on the automation test track in automation. I might get something halfway decent, but not that, because the car will not be that stable even with the weight distribution correction. Not going to stick to this track like glue, and I can't treat it as if it will. So there's the 3000 GT. Go to play. This actually takes longer to load than this usually, but I've already had it open, so caching or whatever means that it loads reasonably quick. So, you click the start button with your mouse, and then you can switch over to your game controller. Pop your clutch, or just pop it into gear. I don't have the manual clutch operational. If I had like the pedals and the wheel and so on, I would probably use it on this car though, because this car would benefit a lot from a manual clutch, because it has a lot of engine inertia. I'm very careful about shifting on this car, because that can actually throw you off. And I'm driving it very conservatively, because I think I could still maybe fix that weight distribution even more. I'm going to have to experiment with that. Of course, this won't be for public release, obviously, because it's just an automation car, just for my own amusement, but it'd be nice to learn stuff, right? So that curve there is deceptively difficult because it's banked. You think that would make it easier? Well, not necessarily. It means you can't get it wrong, so I took it in less than 50 miles an hour. Here's that long straight again, and I will brake considerably here, even get to 150 miles an hour. Because I don't have the steering wheel, I have to be very careful about my steering here. Second straight, over for 110, but then I have to brake for this turn, which is the hardest one on the track in my opinion. Here I actually lose it a bit and cut it there, you can see. That's because it's on a blind hill and is deceptively sharp. So even the sports cars have difficulty taking it at too much more than 70 miles an hour. So then you have a chicane up here, which is better taken at 30. Like most chicanes. I'm down on the 30 there. But like I said, I'm rusty. And then there's this sweeping curve here, which can sometimes catch you. Because it feels like you can take it really fast, but in reality you're limited to about 80 miles an hour on that one. Here I almost lose it, because that curve comes up and often catches me by surprise anyway. And then we have an uphill curve here, which could be difficult, but actually is not as bad as it looks. Main thing is to get the race line here correct, as you can see I'm doing, which again is easier than on some of the other curves. Then try to get the race line here on the last curve, and I almost always lose it right there. But then I gun it to the finish line, and I will succeed in getting a time of about 2:36, but they knock it down to 2:31. I don't know why they cut the lap times down like that, but they do. So, thanks for watching.